For this week's project, we're going to be making finger puppets. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is draw like 3 or 4 shapes. They could be organic shapes, they could be geometric shapes, whatever shapes you want. But then at the base of each of the shapes, I'm going to draw a rectangle on each side. I'm going to use those later. I'm going to use the shapes that I drew initially to make my monsters. I'm going to make imaginary figures, and you could be monsters, robots, whatever you want. But the big idea behind this is you're going to add other features. You're going to add eyes, add a mouth, add a belly, add arms, legs, feet, whatever you want. But you're going to add those different features to turn those initial shapes into imaginary creatures. I like to take a strategy of taking something somewhat familiar, like, an octopus's tentacles, but put them onto a different creature. So, maybe 2 tentacles instead of 8. Now, after I've sketched it all out, I'm going to start to add a little bit of texture. I add little embellishments, extra details. Maybe I'm going to add little lines to make it look like fur, or maybe I'm going to put a bow on its head. Or a cap on top of its head. I'm just going to add those little things. When it comes to color, you have your choice of media, as always. I'm using a marker to start and then coloring it in with crayons, so I get different sort of intensities of the same color. So I outline the shape with a purple marker and then color it in with a purple crayon, or outline with red marker and color it in with red crayon. Another strategy you could use is I'm using hatching lines, just little lines to indicate the different values and textures on my robot design. So I'm just making lots of horizontal line segments with the blue marker there. You can, of course, choose different materials, and whatever materials you work with, think about different ways you could use that material to get a good effect. I chose to leave a lot of the white space showing through in mine to leave it a little bit lighter and make it look a little bit more sort of metallic as I was making my robot. When I decided to color in that strange monster with almost like tentacles, I decided to make patterns of concentric circles. I guess it kind of almost looks like the Target logo or something like that. Just red and white concentric circles to fill it in. But you can color solidly, you can make patterns, you can create textures. Think about different strategies you could use as you color your imaginary creatures. Now, after it's all colored in, the next step is going to be to cut them out. As I'm cutting, I remember to keep the blade pointed away from me. I turn the paper, not my wrist, as I'm cutting. A good strategy can be, when you've got a complicated shape, sometimes just make a bubble cut, a simplified shape, and then go back to cut around the little pieces that are left. So I often will use that strategy of making a bubble cut around it. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on one of those tabs, and then there's my finger puppet. You want to make sure you hold it for about 15 seconds to let the glue set if you're using a glue stick. If it's a glue bottle, it might take a little bit longer for the glue to set, but with a glue bottle, in my experience, while it takes longer for it to set, it will be stronger once the glue does dry. So a little bit extra work in the beginning makes for a stronger bond in the end. Now, I'm going to repeat that same process for each of my finger puppets. I'm going to cut it out, often starting with that bubble cut, and then cut away the little pieces in between the arms and things like that. And then I am going to use those rectangles that are on either side at the base as my glue tabs. I put glue on just one of those rectangles and loop it around so it becomes almost like a ring that can go around my finger. That's how I make my finger puppets.